This is for men, women, and especially young boys in the U.S. who are facing emotional confusion, spiritual disconnection, fatherlessness, and broken identity. This speaks bold truth wrapped in compassion, grounded in the kingdom man calling, rise as husbands, fathers, leaders, and disciples. You feel forgotten, overlooked, abandoned by people who said they had your back. You've watched others pass you by, get promoted, celebrated, while you sit in a prison of delay. And you're starting to ask questions like, God, where are you? Why am I still here? Have you forgotten me? But let me tell you something, delay is not denial. And being hidden is not being forsaken. Joseph was anointed in private, betrayed by blood, and imprisoned by injustice, but God had a plan for his delay. Because God doesn't just bless people, he builds them. You are not stuck, you are not small, you are not forgotten. You're in training. You're in a divine holding pattern so that when God lifts you, no one can say it was man that did it. And when God does it, he does it publicly. Just like Joseph, your vindication won't be a whisper, it will be a testimony, a shaking, a promotion so undeniable, even your enemies will have to watch. Don't quit in the prison. Because your palace is coming. This is your season of divine delay, but it won't end in silence. It will end in vindication. Let me talk to somebody today who feels like God's forgotten their address. You've been waiting, praying, fasting, believing, and yet nothing's moving. It's like heaven is on mute and your situation is stuck. And if you're honest, you've begun to wonder, is God ignoring me? But let me remind you of something your emotions won't tell you. God's delay is not God's denial. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't. Just because it's been long doesn't mean it's been lost. God's timing is always strategic. Now let's bring in Joseph. That boy was given a dream at 17, greatness, leadership, elevation. But what followed wasn't a crown, it was a pit, a betrayal, a prison. His journey didn't look like purpose, it looked like punishment. But that's because we often confuse God's process with his punishment. Hear me, just because it's painful doesn't mean it's pointless. God was never out of control in Joseph's story. He was in full control. The betrayal was scheduled. The pit was necessary, the prison was preparation. You see, we serve a God who operates by appointment, not accident. The detours in your life, those are divinely mapped. You might feel delayed, but you are right on God's clock. That pit didn't cancel Joseph's destiny, it confirmed it. Because if the enemy wasn't threatened by your calling, he wouldn't bother burying you. And here's what we miss. In the delay, God is not just preparing the promise, he's preparing the person. The blessing he's getting ready to bring can't land on immaturity. God's not going to elevate you to a place your character can't carry. So, yes, he'll delay it, not because he hates you, but because he loves you too much to give you something you're not ready to steward. You may think you're waiting on God, but in many cases, God's waiting on you, waiting for you to surrender. Waiting for you to stop striving and start trusting. Waiting for you to mature, not just as a man, not just as a woman, but as a kingdom representative. You don't build a kingdom on weak foundations. So he delays, but not because he's cruel, because he's constructing you. He's building grit, building humility, building wisdom, building trust. Because when God finally opens that door, it won't be a little one. When Joseph came out, he didn't just get his name cleared, he got a throne. And when God's ready to move you from the background to the spotlight, from the prison to the palace, it will be undeniable. So stop crying over the delay and start thanking God for it. He's doing more in your waiting than you can imagine. Heaven is still working. You are not behind. You are being aligned. And when God finally says now, the wait will make sense. Because your delay was divine, let me tell you something most people don't want to hear. The prison is part of the promise. We want the promotion, the palace, the spotlight, but we don't want the prison time that shapes the soul. But hear me, God does his best work in tight spaces, in hidden places, in dark seasons. That's where real transformation happens. You don't become a kingdom man on the mountaintop, you become one in the cell when nobody sees you and nobody's clapping. Joseph was locked up for a crime he didn't commit, falsely accused, stripped of his dignity, forgotten by people he helped. Now, if anybody had a reason to throw in the towel, it was Joseph. But instead of letting prison define him, he let it refine him. Because Joseph understood something many of us forget. The prison wasn't blocking his destiny, it was building him for it. That's how God works. He will confine you to develop you. He'll let you sit in places that feel like punishment but are actually preparation. He'll keep you low so he can bring you high. You don't learn integrity when the spotlight's on, you learn it when the lights are off, and you still choose righteousness. You don't learn leadership on the throne, you learn it when you're helping broken people in the dungeon. And that's what Joseph did. He kept serving, he kept interpreting dreams, he kept using his gift even behind bars. And don't miss that, your gift still works in the prison. Just because you're in a dry season doesn't mean your calling is dead. Keep using what God gave you, even in confinement. That's what makes you trustworthy. That's what makes you usable. The prison produces the kind of maturity that platforms cannot. God didn't forget Joseph in prison. He was watching. Watching how he responded when things weren't fair. Watching what he did when no one was applauding. Because what you do in the dark determines what God can trust you with in the light. Some of you are mad at the prison. But if you'd be honest, the prison has kept you praying, the prison has kept you humble, the prison has kept you dependent. Don't curse the thing that's producing Christ in you. Don't despise the pain that's shaping your purpose. You're not in prison because you're cursed, you're in prison because you're chosen, and when the time is right, when your spirit is formed and your character is firm, God will bring you out. And when he does, you'll be able to handle what he puts in your hands, so hold on, you're not stuck. You're being shaped. The prison is not permanent, but the lessons you gain in it are. That cell is a classroom. Learn well, because graduation is coming. We live in a culture that celebrates the spotlight. We want the mic, the stage, the influence. But God isn't interested in just making you famous. He's interested in making you faithful. And before he uses you in a public way, he must break you in a private one. Because if your ego is still sitting on the throne, God can't trust you with his kingdom. Joseph had to be broken. He had the dream, but not yet the depth. He had the vision, but not yet the vessel. And God said, before I elevate this man, I have to empty him. So he took him through rejection, betrayal, and humiliation, because public elevation without private consecration is dangerous. You'll start thinking it was you. You'll abuse the platform. You'll serve yourself instead of serving the people. So God breaks you not to destroy you, but to rebuild you right. He crushes your pride, tears down your idols, empties your ambition, so when you finally rise, you rise with him. You see, a broken man is a usable man, a man who knows his limitations, a man who doesn't need applause to function, a man who's rooted in purpose, not popularity. God doesn't use perfect men, he uses surrendered ones. Men who have been stripped of self and filled with spirit. That's why some of you are in a breaking season. You thought it was the enemy, but it's God. He's breaking your dependence on people, breaking your addiction to approval, breaking the identity you built without him, because he loves you too much to let you succeed without him. The oil only flows from crushed olives, the perfume only comes from broken jars, and power only comes from broken men. And hear me, when God breaks you, he doesn't leave you in pieces. He reshapes you, refines you, restores you. You become a weapon in his hand, a tool he can trust. A man or woman he can put on display, not for your glory, but for his. So stop resisting the breaking. It's not the end, it's the beginning of your real purpose. Let God strip it down. Let him humble you, because what he's getting ready to build through you will make sense of every tear, every betrayal, every lonely night. God is not trying to embarrass you. He's preparing to elevate you. And when the time comes, people won't see the wounds, they'll see the wisdom. They won't see the scars, they'll see the strength. They won't see the breaking, they'll see the glory. But only if you're willing to be broken. Let's be real, when people hurt us, betray us, abandon us, everything in us wants justice. We want payback. We want them to feel what we felt. But let me tell you something about kingdom purpose. It's bigger than your pain. It's deeper than revenge. Joseph had every reason to clap back. He had the power. He had the position. His brothers, the very ones who sold him into slavery, were now bowing before him. If anyone had the chance to get even, it was Joseph. But instead he forgave. Why? Because Joseph saw something most people never do. He saw the hand of God in the betrayal. He didn't see it as people ruining his life. He saw it as God redirecting his life. You meant it for evil, he told his brothers, but God meant it for good. That right there. That's next-level manhood. That's kingdom maturity. That's when you stop fighting for payback and start living for purpose. See, when you understand purpose, you stop wasting energy on revenge. You realize God was using your enemies to push you into position. You realize that what they meant to break you, God used to build you, and instead of being bitter, you become better. Instead of hating, you start healing. You stop carrying the weight of what happened and start walking in who you've become. God didn't bless Joseph so he could boast. He blessed him so he could save nations. Your anointing ain't for you, it's for others. It's for the broken, the lost, the hurting. Joseph became a deliverer not just for Egypt, but for the very family that wounded him. That's what makes you dangerous to the enemy, not just your gift, but your grace. When you can look at the people who hurt you and say, I forgive you, I release you, I still choose to walk in purpose, that's real power. That's divine. Let go of the grudge, drop the offense, stop rehearsing the betrayal. You've got too much calling on your life to live in bitterness. Forgiveness is not weakness, it's freedom. And the higher God takes you, the less you can carry with you. Bitterness is too heavy for where you're headed. Joseph didn't just survive, he redeemed, and so will you. The very people who thought they buried you will see you bless them. That's what purpose does, so rise above revenge. Embrace the higher road, because God's plan for your life is not about getting even. It's about fulfilling destiny. Let me tell you something about how God works. When he chooses to vindicate you, he doesn't whisper it. He announces it. God does not do small victories for big battles. He does public vindication for private faithfulness. You've been sowing in the dark, crying in silence, obeying when nobody was watching, and God saw every tear, every sacrifice, every act of obedience when it would have been easier to quit. And when he gets ready to lift you, it's gonna be loud. When Joseph came out of that prison, he didn't just get a pat on the back. He got a royal robe, a ring on his hand, and the entire nation of Egypt bowing to his leadership. From dungeon to dynasty in a single moment. But that kind of moment doesn't come to everybody. It comes to those who stayed faithful in obscurity. You see, God is not just the God of rescue, he's the God of reveal. He loves to showcase his glory through people nobody expected. That's why he'll let you be underestimated, overlooked, forgotten, because when he lifts you, no one will be able to take credit but him. And let me press this in, vindication is not just about you being right, it's about God being righteous. It's about him keeping his promise. It's about him showing that faithfulness has a reward. God will not let your integrity rot in the ground. He will not let your obedience be wasted. You think your prayers have gone unheard. No, they've gone stored. He has a date set for your elevation, and when he flips the script, people will see it, not because you need the applause, but because he deserves the glory. So don't force the vindication. Don't try to prove your worth. Let God do it. He's better at it than you are. When God opens the door, nobody can close it, and when he says now, all the lies, all the slander, all the people who counted you out, they'll have to watch you rise. They thought it was over. They thought they buried you, but they didn't know you were just planted. And now it's harvest time. Keep your head down, keep your heart clean, keep walking in purpose, because when God lifts you, it won't be quiet. It won't be hidden. It will be public, undeniable, and holy. Heaven will shout it. Earth will witness it. And the very ones who doubted you will see that it was God who called you. Let's end this with real manhood, real purpose, real legacy. Joseph didn't just get power, he got perspective. And with that perspective, he made one of the most kingdom decisions a man could ever make. He chose to restore the very people who ruined him. His brothers didn't deserve grace, they didn't ask for mercy, but when they were starving and desperate, guess who God put in charge of the storehouse? Joseph, not out of coincidence, but out of calling, because God doesn't raise you just so you can shine. He raises you so you can heal. That's what a kingdom man does. He doesn't just rise, he restores. He doesn't just lead, he lifts. He doesn't just succeed, he redeems. God is looking for men who won't just wear crowns, but who will carry crosses. Men who use power not for payback, but for purpose. When Joseph stood in front of his brothers, he didn't say, "Look at me now." He said, "God sent me ahead of you to save lives." That's manhood. That's maturity, that's legacy. You're not being vindicated just to flex. You're being vindicated to fulfill. To cover your family, to restore broken trust, to model forgiveness, to change the bloodline, Joseph broke the cycle of bitterness and restored the covenant. That's kingdom. Men, God wants to make you that kind of man. Women, God wants to raise you to influence with healing, not hurt. Young people, you're not too young to be used by God to bring restoration to your generation. We need men and women who will rise not just with ambition, but with assignment. Not just with dreams, but with destiny. And let me tell you, when you rise with that kind of heart, heaven backs you. When your goal is redemption, God gives you resources. When your motive is mercy, God multiplies your impact. Because that's how the kingdom operates, the greatest among you must be a servant. Joseph didn't just wear royal robes, he wept with his brothers. He hugged them, he provided for them, he restored what was broken. That's your call too, not just to win, but to heal. Not just to get to the top, but to reach back and bring others with you. This world needs more Josephs, men of integrity, women of strength, leaders of mercy. You are not rising for your own glory, you are rising for God's glory. Now go restore what the enemy tried to destroy.